Hi, everybody. It's Melanie Warner here. Thank you for joining me today. What a day. What a day. Today's very special for a lot of reasons. I have launched a lot of books. I've written books and I've helped a lot of other people write their books. And I have to admit, true confession here, that I've been putting off my own stuff. Um, and it's funny because I love writing books. I don't like writing, but I love writing books and I love giving people that information, knowledge that they need to kind of, take that next step in their life or their business or wherever they feel like they're getting stuck, right? And give them an opportunity to take something to the next level. And so I love to challenge myself too. And so I decided it was time for me to release my own book. And I haven't done that in a little while, but I specifically chose today because today is August 31st, which is also my son Carson's birthday. And Carson is a really big catalyst in my business and the reason that I do what I do now, the reason I'm here today speaking with y'all, and the reason that so many other people's lives have been changed by the information or the support or the resources or the tools that we've been able to provide, not only in my own books, but in all the other books that we've helped other people launch. And so I just wanted to take a second and just share with you a couple of things. And also just to welcome those of you that are here today live with us. So thank you for being here. And if you have a comment or a question, I can actually see it in here. So I'm going to get to that spot where I can see your comments. And if you want to just post it in the chat, I'll be able to see it as well and respond to your questions. And I would love to know if you think about how books can change a life, right? Or they can change the world. And if you've ever read a book that just changed your perspective on something or changed your life, or may have changed a circumstance like your finances, or helped you finally reach that weight loss goal, or maybe it helped repair or fix some type of relationship issue or heal from something that you had, a broken heart. So if you wouldn't mind, take a second and share with me in the chat a book that just rocked your world, a book that changed your life. And most of these books are nonfiction. The ones I'm seeing here are nonfiction books, right? And so I think that's what compelled me to want to do nonfiction books, to write them, to help other people write them and launch them and publish them and get them out in the world, because I know how much one story can change a life. And even if you have the impact on one person, and that person says my life is better on this planet because of this one person or that one person, then it kind of is intimidating for people to put themselves out there. And when you write a book, it really is a lot like having a baby. Although when you have a baby and you put your baby out there, most people don't criticize your baby. I mean, think about it. When's the last time, those of you that have children, okay, whether you're a woman and you carried this baby, and or you're a man and this is your child, and you put pictures of your baby out there and you talk about your baby. Imagine if there was a whole review section on your baby. Like like all these people are weighing in on what they think of your baby, right? They're saying, "Oh, your baby is ugly," or "Your baby's so cute," or "Your baby looks like Winston Churchill." You know what I mean? Or "Your baby um, is cute, but oh my gosh, look how big it is. It's a little bit big for a baby, right?" So imagine how gut wrenching that would feel as a parent to have somebody just rip apart your baby. So I think that's why a lot of people, from what I can gather and from the conversations I have, the reason that people don't write a book is because they have this fear of rejection or this fear of failure. That what if I write a book and nobody wants to read it and no one likes it, or get a bad review? And the funny thing is, we have learned to celebrate bad reviews. No one likes them, and most people don't really look at them as that. They don't put a lot of um weight in them, right? Unless it's like a lot of bad reviews. But you never know, because sometimes if you own a restaurant, you go look on Yelp, right? If you're going to have dinner and you go in a restaurant on a Friday night and there's nobody in the restaurant, and you look on Yelp and there's like no reviews, especially if they've been out for a while, if they've been open for a while, you're kind of like, I don't know about this place. We always joke in our programs and in our masterminds, we talk about the $7 lobster, right? Like, would you really want to eat the $7 lobster? Now, there's two camps, right? There's one camp that would say, heck yeah, sign me up all day long. And there's the other camp that says, I don't think I would want to eat a $7 lobster, right? And that's the whole point, is that sometimes you can go out somewhere and try to have a nice dinner. And there's a lot of factors that determine whether or not you think it's going to be good. Number one, it's going to be the look of the restaurant. Number two, it's going to be maybe the photos in the menu and the reviews of what other people say. So a book is no different, right? When you launch your book, and some of you, maybe you've written books and they've been out for a while and they're not doing anything, or they're not selling. And there's a lot of reasons that could be the issue. You could have written a book that no one wants to read, right? If you made the book about yourself, you're not going to find as many people that are going to want to read it. And there are ways to do a memoir and share your story without making it all about you. I know that sounds counterintuitive, but there's a very specific model that you want to use in a memoir, because you still want the reader to relate to you, and you want them to feel connected to your story, and you want them to feel inspired by your story. So there are so many different types of books that you could write. We love to focus on the nonfiction kind because, like I said, books can change the world. Books can change one life or millions of lives. And this is where I want you to start thinking about the books that have impacted your world and your life, and what it would feel like to have that opportunity, right? What does it feel like to go through all this hard work, this labor, and finally have this book at the end? And it's kind of funny because, I mean, I literally just went through this process for my own book. And I remember growing up, my dad always said, it takes a woman 9 months to have a baby. And no matter how hard they try, 9 women can't have a baby in a month. And it always stuck with me because I'm so impatient. I'm always the person that just wants to do everything right now. And and so I really hated the fact that traditional books would take years to do. Like, not only would they take years to write, because that was how the industry wanted you to think, it was so grueling and so difficult that only a few with formal writing degrees and dissertations and could actually write a book. Like, that was so insulting, that you have to be so highly educated to put your words together, that you're the only type of person that could ever be allowed to write a book. And in the old days, that's kind of the way it was, because you really had to have, we didn't have social media, right? We didn't have platforms. We didn't have a way to promote our own things. And so the thing was, in the old days, if you wanted to be an author, you had to sign a traditional publishing deal. And that meant that there were, a couple of big publishers that controlled your fate. They determined whether or not your book would get made. They determined whether or not anybody was going to see the light of day of the words that you wrote. And my cat is being, my coworker is being very rude right now. This is what happens when you do live stuff. It is what it is, right? Okay. So sorry, I got a little distracted. Instead of squirrel, it's cat. You know how like the ADD people are like squirrel, mine's cat. And what's funny is he doesn't really give me any attention at all, except when I'm trying to sleep, like in the middle of the night when he like climbs on me, or when I'm obviously on a live Zoom call. So, and launching a book, but no big deal. Come on back here. Anyways, so when you actually look at how you're writing your book and who's reading your book, right? And you look at like the way the big publishers used to do it, they would shoot down anything and everything that didn't fit within a certain mold because they had their own formulas of what they felt would be successful. And there were many people that went out there and really defied the odds. And some of them were my mentors. They wrote the Chicken Soup for the Soul book series. Now, there's over 250 books in that brand, and that's Mark Victor Hansen and Jack Canfield. So when I decided I wanted to write a book, I went to learn from the people who have sold more books than anybody else on this planet. And I learned a lot from them. And it helped me really not make a lot of the mistakes that I felt instinctively I need to go this way. And they say, no, 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 you need to go that way. And they know, right? And so when I wanted to learn how to do something, I didn't think, how do I do this? I always said, who do I know that has done this and can show me? Right. And I was willing to spend a little bit of time and money to save myself 10, 20 years. Right. I wrote a check for speed. And in other words, wait, that didn't sound right. I didn't buy speed like drugs, right? I wrote a check to be able to get somebody's wisdom and experience as a mentor. I worked with them. I trained with them. I spoke on stages and platforms with them. That's what I mean when I could take their knowledge and their expertise and everything that they had learned the hard way, and I could take that in and make it work for me. And the other thing that was kind of cool is that they actually gave me a publishing deal because I had shown that I was that dedicated and I was really committed to getting my book done. And I pretty much talked them into like saying, hey, let me do one of my books with you. So I had my first book was one of the Chicken Soup for the Soul books. And I actually signed a publishing deal with them. And here I am. Everybody wants a publishing deal, right? And here I am. I have a publishing deal and I can't get my book finished. I'm just dragging and dragging. And I did a multiple author book. This is actually my first book right here, right? It's called Defining Moments, Coping with the Loss of a Child. And it's 50 different stories of parents who experienced the loss of a child, including myself. And we wanted to give other parents hope and resources and healing. And I remember when I finally was getting all the stories together, and Mark is looking at me going, come on, girl, get your book out. We're giving you this huge opportunity. Why are you dragging your feet? And I don't know what I was second guessing my book, right? And I'm sure any of you who've tried to write a book or you have written a book, even I talk to celebrities and like famous people that have written books, and they all have the same fears and doubts. I just want you to know that it's extremely common, and it's just part of human nature to protect yourself from that fear of rejection that's kind of rooted in from a very young age for almost every human on the planet. We all have it, but it's how we manage it. And that voice inside of us that says you can or you can't, because what you believe is what you will achieve. And if you believe that you will do it, then you will do it. And if you don't believe that you will do it, or you don't believe that people will read your book, then you will be right. It's based on what you believe. And so when he said to me, like, I started thinking about, okay, who is this book going to help? Like, why am I doing this book? And I had about 200 people. So this is another little thing. If you have like a collaboration book where you're expecting other people to write stories, right? I had about 200 people that said they were going to write the book. They're going to write a story. But there were some people that I was waiting for years. And some people were very well known. They were famous. And during that process of years of trying to collect the stories, there were a few people that actually passed away. Art Linkletter was one of them. Elizabeth Edwards was another one. And I just thought, here I am trying to do something to help people. And I've been dragging it on so long. And now there's people that are not here anymore, or their story isn't going to be able to be in here to help somebody because I couldn't get it together, right? I kept doubting it. And so finally he said to me, Mark Victor Hansen, he looked at me and he said, Melanie, you need to stop thinking about the people that you're going to help. And you need to start thinking of the people you're going to hurt if you don't get this done. And the very next day, this woman in my city jumped in front of a train and took her own life. because her son had passed away 15 years earlier. And I just thought, I can't believe like this person, this soul had been suffering for so long, and I had those solutions. I knew exactly how she feels because I lost my son Carson. And in fact, today is Carson's birthday. He would have been 17 years old today. And I know when I go pick up the cake later, and I go to the same store every year, and I see Bonnie there and she makes his cake. And I go pick it up and we both hug and we cry, and everybody there gives me a hug and they celebrate him. And that means so much to me. And I knew how she felt. I knew how deep and dark that hole was. And I knew that I had tools and resources and support that could really help someone like that. And I never wanted anyone else to suffer the same way that I had suffered. When my son passed away, I shut down really hard because I didn't know what to do. I didn't have resources. I didn't really have family or support around me. I didn't know um, how to get through that. And so as a result, I just didn't have the tools, right? And as a result, everything else shut down. And I shut down my emotions, and I shut down, like, I just didn't care if anything survived. I just was so distraught in such a deep, dark place of grief that I didn't think I could function. And so, and I was married at the time, and I remember my husband was also in grieving in his own way. And we both grieved in different ways. And later I learned that when someone loses a child, there's a very high rate, like 90% of divorce. There's a high rate of suicide or thoughts of suicide or alcohol or drug abuse because people can't cope, and they're self-medicating and they're blaming each other, or they don't know how to cope. They don't know how to deal with it. And so the ultimate tragedy is obviously losing this person that you love, but the collateral damage of all the other people that are affected by that one person's death is cumulative, and it can combine and combust in such a way that it can blow up your life. And if you don't know how to navigate that, then you can lose so much more than the person you loved. And I finally had to come to terms and say, listen, I know my son, I finally had to accept that he wasn't coming back. And instead of asking why, I started asking other questions. What can I learn from this? Who do I know that's gone through this that can help me? And I went and started speaking to other parents. That's how I ended up doing the book. And I also own magazines. So I did stories about people who had changed the trajectory of their lives because of the death of their children, and something that they had to overcome that was really horrific. And it led to this inspiration and hope. And so to me, the greatest gift you can give anybody is the gift of hope. And so that's how it all started for me, you guys, is this book became the legacy. This book became a way for me to heal myself. And it was very cathartic. It really did help me to know that I was helping someone else, and that my son's death was not in vain, and that his life was not in vain. And a lot of times when we lose somebody to grief, we focus on how they died instead of celebrating how they lived. And so here I am today, all these years later, having gone through all that loss, and then it triggered more loss because, like I said, I shut down and I went through divorce, and then I just didn't even care if my business survived, and I had spent 20 years building a multi-million-dollar business. And if you've ever seen the movie Collateral Beauty with Will Smith, that's exactly what I felt like. I couldn't articulate it till I saw that movie, and it was like this switch went off inside of me. The light, the passion, the life, my soul, like everything was just turned off. And other people could see it, and it was a helpless feeling for them. They didn't know what to say or do, and there wasn't anything they could say or do. And I would just have these waves of grief, and was just literally ambushed by grief all the time. And I as much as I felt like I could understand it, I couldn't accept it. And so, and then let's say I went through bankruptcy, foreclosure, tax audits, even tax court. I literally went from making $1 million a year to living on unemployment with 3 kids, and now I was a single mom. And I had to learn to live on like $1,800 a month. And I was really proud of the fact that I did that. And I met myself at my means, and I didn't go into debt. I paid off everything. I rebuilt my whole life. It took me about 2 years, but I thought it was going to take me 20 years to do it. And it freaked me out. And that's why I was so depressed and so scared. I just felt like every time I woke up, there was some attack or somebody coming after me. And I know some of you have felt that. I know it's resonating with y'all, right? Oh, thank you, Amber, for happy birthday to Carson. Thank you. I appreciate that. And so that's the thing. With everything I went through, I thought I was being buried. I thought my life was over. I thought I'm never going to get out of this stuff. But I didn't understand until now, looking back and connecting the dots, that I was being planted to grow for this experience of being able to create not only my own books and projects, but to help so many other people that has impacted like hundreds and thousands of people across the world, and millions of people that have been impacted by reading the books or being part of our shows or something like that. So it's like you just don't know where it's going to take you. And I can promise you firsthand, the reason I'm sharing all this with y'all is because you can take that pain and you can turn it into purpose. Papus. Let me say that again. You can take that pain and you can turn it into purpose. And I know because I've done it, and I know you can do it too. And the biggest mistake I made when I first launched this book, well, wait, let me back up. So I was with major publishers. Okay. I was dragging my feet. And then something happened where they decided to sell their company and their rights. And my book was in the middle of that. See, I waited so long, the opportunity, even though I thought it was going to be there forever, it wasn't. And when I had a meeting with the new publisher and the new owner, I realized that it was going in a different direction. Nothing against them. This is where they wanted it to go, and that's their right. But it didn't feel like it was right for me. And people thought I was nuts. Like, are you crazy? You have a major publishing deal. Why would you not publish your book with this company? Why would you not do that and leverage that and have the platform? And there was something in my gut that stirred inside my soul that just said this wasn't meant for me, right? And then I had a really good friend who also spoke up and said, you know what, this idea, let's run with this. Let's see what you can do with it. And she really inspired me. Her name was Glinda Finn. Glinda recently passed away. She was just such a light and inspiration in my life and really influenced everything I'm doing right now. She saw this vision today more clearly than I did back then. So then I ended up going to a different publisher. And this was one of the largest Christian publishers on Amazon, one of the biggest in the world. And this person who ran the company was a mentor of mine. I had actually hired him as a CFO of my company at one point. And he was a New York Times bestselling author. He was a minister. He was an attorney. He had a master's in business and finance. So this guy was really smart, right? Like he had more degrees than a thermometer. You know what I'm saying? So I felt like I could trust him and I respected him. And he had a publishing company. And so he said, why don't you come do your book with me? So I did. And I sold a lot of books, and I went all over and did bookstore signings, book signings and book tours and speaking and all that. But I didn't make one dime. I never got paid to this day, one dime. That was 6 years ago, y'all. 6 years ago. Okay, this book, I sold thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands of copies. Never got paid one dime. A lot of bookstores were going out of business and filing bankruptcy, and they weren't paying the publisher. The wholesalers weren't paying the publisher. Even books that were sold directly through Amazon and the publisher got the money, I never got paid. And then the next thing I know, this person is just poof, disappeared off the planet, MIA, can't even get a hold of them, publishing company, everything is just, I don't know what's going on with it. But the point is, I had a conversation with him after 2 years and I said, this isn't working. I'm not getting any money. I need to get my rights back. And he agreed. And he sent me in writing that you own your own rights. And that to me was very freeing. And that happened in August a few years ago. So August is a big month for me in that a lot of ups and downs happened during that month. So what was interesting is he gave me the rights back. And 2 weeks later, when I promoted my own book, published my own book, put it out there, marketed it, and did the same amount of effort that I was doing for this major publishers. Okay, after 2 weeks, my book hit #1 on the bestseller list. Not just the Amazon bestseller list, but like the top of Amazon as far as my whole category of grief. And I knew that there were people that this book was resonating with. And more importantly, I was starting to get paid. And I had some really good results in those first 30 days that I share in my book, my new book, which is what we are launching today. This is why we're talking about so many books, because I really wanted you to know what's possible. And a lot of that story that I just went through is in the introduction, but there's a lot more detail to it that you don't know, and it might surprise you. So I would encourage you to grab a copy of the book today and read it. And hopefully it will inspire you to not only write your book, but publish it and launch it and market it and not feel intimidated by that process. And so the copy of my book is Write Your Best-Selling Book in 8 weeks or less and make a profit, even if no one's ever heard of you. It's kind of fun, right? So you'll see that, and I'll put it in the chat here. It's also in the down below in all of the in the posts that we have, because we're live on several different platforms. So it's actually posting in there as well. And you'll see it in there. But I want to do this. I want to see if I can get, I'm not going to try to put all these links in here because it'll be super jacked up on this system that we're doing since we're live. But I will put it in the chat here. And then you can also look in the post and see it. Okay, hold on. Let's see. This thing always looks a little wonky, I think, sometimes. All right, so hopefully that'll be, oh, it still did it again. Okay, sorry, hold on a second, guys. You know, I'm not that technically inclined, and I am blonde. I am not a millennial. I know, I just look maybe a few years older than a millennial, but I'm still figuring out. And that's the thing. You don't have to be a tech whiz to be able to do this. You don't have to have a huge team to be able to do this. All you have to do is have the right people that are supporting you in the right way. And so I just put the link in there for the book. If you're curious about this, you can grab it right now. It's only 99 cents. And if you're watching the replay, little spoiler, it may not be 99 cents at that point. This is just for the launch, and this is the ebook. Okay. And the reason that I'm excited about this as an ebook is you can download it in this format, like I have mine here, right, in my little iPad. And what's cool is when you click on something in the book, let me find something, like here's one of the pages, right? You've got some nice pictures and graphs. I've got charts. I've got case studies, everything in there that you need. And there's so many links, and you can literally click on the link and it'll take you straight to the place that you want to go, which is awesome. So most books, when you read a book, and this is the thing, guys, there are 50,000 books on Amazon about how to write a book. 50,000 books. It's nuts. But there's very few, if any. I couldn't find one book that does what our book does. And the reason, I think the problem a lot of people don't take action, they don't execute getting your book done, is they might read about how to write a book and then they're just reading it. They're not taking action while they're reading it. So we created this as really like a workbook. And you'll see, like, here's a great example in the book. It's called Fire Your Publisher. And we talk about on a chart form exactly, and I'm telling you this because I did it. This is not my opinion, y'all. This is my experience. And it took me over $100,000 and about 15 years to learn all of this stuff and do it the wrong way. So everything that I learned the wrong way, I want to teach you so you don't make the same mistake that I made. In this chart, it has a difference between the same exact book that is my book, this book right here. You'll see exactly what I made when I went through a publisher and what the costs were, as opposed to self-publishing and what the return and reward was. And then you'll also see exact data of what happened in the first 30 days. And you'll see case studies of what some of our other authors have done as well. including my dad, who is 86 years young. He wrote his first book last year when he was 85. And since then, he's written 4 books and is working on his 5th book. And this is a guy who is never going to retire. He's an attorney for over 60 years. We joke that he's going to live long enough to do his own probate. And he is a total book nerd like me. He's the one that got me into reading books because he's into self-help books. He used to teach Dale Carnegie classes when I was born. And when I was 15 years old, I got grounded for taking the family car. And he forced me to read this stupid, like Dale Carnegie book called How to Win Friends and Influence People. And I couldn't go anywhere. I couldn't leave the house. I couldn't go to the mall. I couldn't do anything unless I read this book, and I had to report it back to him. And I even had to memorize the mantras at the end of each chapter. And like the mantras at the end of each chapter, there were, things like, a man's name is to him the sweetest word in any language. I still remember them. And this was like 100 years ago, literally. So the point is that it was a really full circle defining moment in my life when my dad grounded me at 15 years old and literally forced me to read these self-help books. And it really, ironically, grounded me in life and business. And it just helped me understand that the answers were there and that there were other people who had a solution. And that if I just had a good, positive attitude about things, if I changed my beliefs, I could change my life. And that was so powerful as a teenager to really learn. And I'm so blessed and grateful that he did do that as a form of punishment. Although at the time I just was like, you're such a nerd. Why can't you ground me like everybody else? I was so annoyed. But I now realize what a blessing it was all these years later. And here I am writing nonfiction self-help books and have a whole publishing company that helps other people do similar things. So I want to thank my dad formally for that. And some of you might have seen him on some of our shows. We featured his book not too long ago. And since then, he has released his 2nd volume. And he makes really good passive income every single month. He doesn't do a lot of promotions. He's not doing paid ads. He's not on TikTok, That's a funny thought. But he is literally he wrote the book people needed. He wrote the book people wanted to read. And he has 4 volumes and they are selling constantly all the time. And he is donating 100% of his proceeds to his church, which is pretty cool. And so the idea is that you can start at any age or stage. We've seen people as young as 8 years old write a book and get it published, and all the way up to, 86 or 90 years old. So it can be something that's aspirational where you want to like write a book because it's a bucket list item, or it can be something to grow a business. I've seen contractors who have an incredible system write a book that not only does it stop that, conversation, the eye roller conversation, right? The ones where they're like, oh, they're having the same conversation over and over and over all day. Now they can literally just hand the book to somebody, and that person can read it and understand the value of who they are and what they do and their expertise. And they stand out above anybody else, because I guarantee you a contractor is not going to show up with a book. No one, and especially as a best-selling author. So it elevates this person. And then the other thing he did is he was giving the book out, but then he started charging for a course. And he found that people were willing to pay $25,000 to learn what he knew. So he set up a program that was a 2-year certification program to teach people how to be a contractor and how to get certified and how to actually make money and how to deal with the insurance companies and how to protect yourself. It was brilliant. And he was making so much money. In the first month, he did over $200,000 because he created this program from his book. And guess what? He was dyslexic. He had to create these automated programs because he couldn't read. And yet here he's a best-selling author. I mean, that just blows my mind. What's possible? One of my mentors, Dean Graziosi and Tony Robbins, they've both written several books. Dean was sharing with me how in the last recession in 2008, if you think about some of the real estate people that were out there, the gurus, right? Remember Carlton Sheets? Remember that guy? And Robert Allen? I have pictures with Robert Allen. He spoke on stages with me when I would speak with Mark Victor Hansen as well. And they were really big on real estate and they were everywhere. And then in '08, all of a sudden the real estate market crashed. And every other home was in foreclosure. Remember? The bubble burst and all the subprime loans and all that nightmare, that big mess. I know, because that's when everything hit for me. That was that was the perfect storm when everything stopped for me. Right. And what Dean did, and Dean is dyslexic as well, but what he did is he found a niche where he said, okay, nobody's making money right now. Everybody's trying to find a way to make extra money, kind of like where we are right now in this economy, where everybody's just looking to, get out of survival mode and pay their bills and make a little bit of extra money, right? So he wrote a book about real estate, but instead of how to be the investor and have to come up with all this cash, he wrote a book about how to be a bird dog, right, for other investors and how to bring leads to them. And so you could tie up the property and you could then sell it to an investor and you could flip it within 30 days and you didn't have to own the property or put up a lot of money or even have the loans. It was really incredible. And his book at the beginning of '08, when all these other gurus were big, his book only had maybe 10% of the marketplace. And by the end of it, after like a year, he was making $1 million a week off this book and this program, just getting it out there on a big level. And he ended up owning 80% of the market share of real estate programs and books. And these other guys, you haven't heard from them since, right? Think about it. Where'd they go? They didn't survive the '08 crash, most of them. And yet he found a way to capitalize, take a down economy, listen to what people needed, and very quickly create a book and a product that solved a problem. Right now, if you have a solution for finance, you have a way to help someone make extra money and you want to show them that process, you can do the same thing. And the beauty is your book will do that for you, because once you write a book, you have this residual income for the rest of your life. And guess what? The one thing that every single book has in common that's ever been published is it outlives its author. That book will outlive you if you write the right book. Dale Carnegie wrote How to Win Friends and Influence People over 100 years ago. 100 years ago. Think and Grow Rich. Napoleon Hill, I have it right here. He wrote that book, I believe it was in the 20s or the 30s. It was, again, almost 100 years ago. And here's what's cool. So he spent 30 years researching the most successful people on the planet, the millionaires and billionaires of the day, Andrew Carnegie, Henry Ford. And he wanted to know what set them apart, what made them different than other people, what made them successful. And the reason it took him 30 years is because he didn't have the internet and he didn't have Zoom, y'all, and he didn't have a cell phone and he had to drive a really slow car or walk everywhere. So the thing is, you can do that in 30 days. You can go interview some of the most famous people in the world and you can access them and get that information like that. Isn't that amazing? I think it's amazing. So you don't even have to be the expert. You can be the reporter, right? Think of it like a podcast. If you had a podcast and you were inviting people to come on your show that were going to add value to your audience and you interview them, okay? You following me? You interview these people for your podcast and maybe you have 10 people. You could interview these people, you can record it, you can transcribe it, and there's your book. It doesn't have to take years. I will tell you, this book right here that I'm holding in my hot little hands, it took me 37 hours to write from start to finish. 37 hours. I had a very clear outline of what I wanted to do. And I had all the information already at my disposal and I needed to drop it in and I wanted to go through each step in detail because there are 11 key steps that you need to do in order to write your book, publish it, launch it, market it, and make it successful. And these are the core steps. And I walk you through each one, but I really, really wanted it to be perfect, right? So it took 37 hours. It didn't take months or years. Now, I did all of that in a matter of 4 days. I don't recommend you do that. Some of you are okay with that. But I will tell you that same amount of time of 37 hours, I could have binge watched the entire summer of Love Island. Okay, there were 37 episodes. Don't ask me how I know that. But I'm saying That's 37 hours. I could have spent my time watching a TV show that didn't further my life, that didn't make me any money in my business, that didn't actually create income for me or opportunity, or I could have invested 37 hours in this project. And I know, based on the information that we've already experienced with so many people, with hundreds of other people that we've published and thousands of people that have read those books and commented and made and given us feedback, I know that we have a great formula. In fact, it works so well that we have a 100% success rate, where every single person who's ever written a book with us and launched a book and published their book has hit number one on the bestseller list. So if you ever wanted to write a book and even become a best-selling author, this is how you do it. And I'm spilling the tea and giving you all my secrets because I love you and I want you to do well. And the truth is, I can write 10 more books, but I don't have the same satisfaction of seeing you succeed. I think it's kind of like when you have kids and you have your own kids and they're grown, and then when your kids have grandkids, now I can be like the doctor in the delivery room that helps you give life, but I'm not going to be the one changing diapers at 2 a.m. That's your job, right? So I can show you how to give birth to this book baby. And the beautiful thing is, sorry, Dad, but yes, 9 people can have a baby in a month, and it's called a book baby. So there's so many steps that go into it, but there's 11 core steps that you must follow in this order to be successful. And there's a formula and a blueprint for each of them, and we've outlined it in this book. So don't do it alone. It literally will cost you 99 cents and maybe an hour and a half to read the book. But the beauty is you read it through once, okay? And then when you start your process, you go back through and you just do everything in it. Now, this is the ebook right now. You can still take on a piece of paper, you can fill out your notes. And by the time you finish the book, guess what? You finished your book as well, because you'll have a very clear outline. You'll know exactly who you're writing your book for, why you're writing a book, how much money you want to make. You'll have a business plan for your book. You'll have a marketing plan. And I even show you how you can launch your entire book all over the world in 87 countries and reach millions of people. I think that would cost, by the way, to market your book. I just want to see in the chat. What do y'all think? I'm going to drink my coffee while y'all think about that. How much do you think it would cost to market? If you were going to have to pay for ads and marketing a book that's going to reach millions of people all over the world, what do you think that would cost? It's good stuff. This is bulletproof coffee, by the way. This is a beautiful mug called Spiritual Transformation Angel. Loanne Mayer sent me this. She's one of our authors. In fact, her story is in this book, and she wrote her own book, and she's writing another book with us right now. I'm so proud of her. And she sent me this, and I love it so much. I drink my coffee every day out of this. Okay, how much do you think it would cost to publish, to market your book to all these different countries and reach millions of people? This is why people don't self-publish. They get scared with these numbers. Okay, what if I told you that, and I show you, not only show you, but I actually give you the links that you can literally click on right here in this same ebook. You can click on it and it'll take you to the website exactly where you need to go to do that. To each one, there's a lot of different places that will promote your book. Some of them are free. Some of them will promote your book for a small fee, but it's going to cost you less than $500. Okay. Now, anybody want to take a guess on how long it takes to publish a book? How long does it take to publish a book? If you're with a traditional publisher, it can take at least 18 months to 24 months. So even if your book's written right now, it's going to take almost 2 years to get it out. Did you know that? Do you know why? Because they sell it in advance in these catalogs with wholesalers. And they look and they pitch it to the book buyers like Barnes and Noble and all these aggregates and bookstores. And if they don't buy the book and they don't see value in it, then they don't publish your book. They might sign a deal with you. They might even agree to publish your book. But if no one's buying it, they're not going to publish it. So just because you might get a publishing deal doesn't actually mean your book is going to be launched. And they test it. This is how they do it. So if the bookstores put them in the catalog and no one's and they're not even selling your book. This is what happened with mine. Is they were promoting it. It took 18 months. They promoted it, and it was kind of cool to walk in and see my book on bookstores everywhere. Like I could walk into any Barnes and Noble or any bookstore in the country, and my book was right there next to my mentors, Oprah Winfrey, Tony Robbins. It was pretty cool. And Mark Victor Hansen. It was just so neat to like say, oh my gosh, these are people that I know and love and work with and value and respect. And now here I am at that level. It's just a weird thing for your brain to look at that. And it's definitely an ego boost, right? Everybody wants that. However, it doesn't matter if you're not making any money. You got to make bank, people. You're not expected to work for free. And you shouldn't. Because if you're the best in the world and you wrote the book on it, you are the expert. And you have to become the person who wrote the best-selling book. So there. And that's the thing. Most people don't see themselves as the expert. So let me ask you a question. What is it? How much time does it take to publish your book? If you self-publish, I'm going to see in the chat. What do you guys think? How long does it take to actually publish your book? A few months, a few years, 6 weeks, 6 months. Good guesses. You ready? It takes approximately 10 minutes. 10 minutes. Don't let people fool you and make you think it's more complicated than it is. It takes 10 minutes. The challenge is getting the materials together to hit the publish button, because you have to have your cover and a final manuscript, and it has to be formatted properly for that aggregate, or the publishing company that you're working with or where you're uploading it. And there are lots of different options besides Amazon. And even though Amazon right now sells about 90% of all ebooks and 70% of all print books, there's a lot of different options for audiobook as well, which is a huge market. So, it's really just a process like anything else. And when you learn it, you know it. And then you can repeat it and you can do it over and over again for years and years and years. Like many of our authors have written several books. Like my dad, who waited until his 80s to write his first book and is now writing his 5th book, which is pretty cool. And that one, he has taught Little League Baseball for 50 years, and he is an excellent coach. And he's also been an attorney for over 60 years. He could have written a book about that, but he actually chose to write a book about Bible study lessons because he has taught Sunday school for 50 years. And that was his passion project. And it's something that he loves. So you might find that you can write about a hobby, or you can write about something that's going to blow up your business in an incredible way and get you more clients and you know what to do with. Right? By the way, if you own a business and you don't have a book, you are losing 6 figures or 7 figures a year. And I can show you how. And we actually include that in the book. We'll walk you through the math and you will be blown away at like, oh my gosh, I can't believe I never thought about this as a marketing vehicle, a lead magnet, a speaker platform. And here's the thing. The biggest mistake I made when I wrote this first book is I really underestimated how people would see me as the expert. And when the book came out, I wasn't prepared. I don't want to see that happen to y'all. This is why I include all of these things in my book. Okay. Because here's another book that I wrote, right? We have a whole series of defining moments. So, in a sense, even though my book was with Chicken Soup for the Soul and everything went in a different direction, look how it worked out. I own my own books. I own my own book series. I had a 20-year publishing deal, guys, and I pulled away from that to do my own thing. That's not something that most people would do. It sounds nuts, like stay with the security, right? But I knew there was opportunity. And if I did that, it would just have been about me and my books. This is about you, right? I've had my success. I've done great for my life. I've built companies since I was 18 years old. I own magazines. I own a publishing company. I've written multiple books that have gone all over the world. And I want this I want you to succeed. I want to help you. So everything we have, all of my experience and resources, I want to pour into each of you. And I want to hold your hand through the process if that's what you need. Some of you can do this on your own. Some of you want more help, support. Maybe you need to join a group and get fired up with other authors. We have all these tools for you, and a lot of these tools are free. We just want to see you succeed. We want to give away whatever we can to help make it happen for you. And don't make the mistake I made. When this book came out, I had parents calling me every day, and they were suicidal because they said, I don't know how to deal with this pain. But obviously, you know how to deal with it because you wrote the book on it and you're the expert. So you can fix me and you can help me, right? And I went, I didn't know what to say. I wasn't prepared. So I went back to my friend and my mentor, Tony Robbins. And I have studied with Tony for over 20 years. And actually, he hired me to be a mentor and a trainer for his company, which was really exciting with Tony and Dean Graziosi and Tony Robbins. That was a full circle moment. But I went back years ago and studied with him and became a master life coach and a master business coach. And I learned some tools called strategic intervention. And it helped me in my own journey of self healing. Every time my life went somewhere not planned, it helped me keep my head straight and get back on track instead of just going off the rails. And some of you may be sitting there teetering on the edge where you have the opportunity to fall into the darkness or lean into the light, and you're struggling with something. Some of you may be in survival mode, and some of you may just want to do life a little better. You want to learn some new skill, you want to improve something. This is such an incredible opportunity to do this, to write a book, to be the light to someone else, to be the hope in someone else, to grow and impact someone else, and to be that person that you revere, the person that changed your life because of their book. You have that opportunity to do that for someone else. And there are things that only you can offer. And it's funny working with Tony and seeing how many people love him everywhere we go. Like, people just love the dude. He's amazing, incredible, but he's already way up here. And you can be so much more effective by just being a few steps ahead of somebody, right? Because sometimes they perceive someone like him as, well, yeah, but how did he get started? And I know how he got started because he's been my mentor for over 20 years. And I know every story, and I have been at these events and I have seen what he had to deal with, especially during COVID, right? Because UPW, March 2020, I was supposed to be on stage at that event in San Jose. Everything shut down. We had to shift like that. And behind the scenes, it was impressive to watch. He lost millions of dollars and he just kept finding a way around it. That's just who he is. And he completely revolutionized the entire industry of virtual events, right? And he worked with Barry and Blue and Sage Events. They're also mentors of mine because they are the best in the world at creating these events. And they did these events with like 1 million people, right? And Tony was usually seeing 5,000 people in a room. And now he could impact 250,000 people or 1 million people at one time. That's what COVID and the pandemic did to us. That was the gift that it gave us, is it brought the entire world together. We had one common enemy, right? And we all came together and got closer and stronger because of it. And some people took that time to binge watch Netflix or start a garden, which is fine, but others went to work and they wrote a book. And you're going to read about some of their successes in my book. And I can't wait for you to meet them, hear their stories. I even put links to their book in my book because I want you to see what they've done. I want to give you real life examples of people just like you who've been able to do it, who started with blank page. I don't know what I'm going to do. And within 8 weeks, they wrote their book, launched it, published it, marketed it, right? And some people take longer. I mean, it's your own pace, but you have the ability to do it. And we'll be here with you and we're going to celebrate you. And more importantly, when your book launch comes out, like mine is here today, we're going to show up and we're going to be there and support you. We're going to buy your book. We're going to tell other people about your book. And we're going to leave you a review. And I just ask that you guys please buy a copy. If you know somebody that wants to write a book, you can actually buy, if you're in the US, you can buy an ebook for someone else. And then you'll get this email from Amazon and you can send them the link and they can open it and read it in a Kindle or any type of e-reader. which is kind of cool. So today you can get it for 99 cents. It will never be at that price again. I can promise you that. This is just for us to get it out there in as many hands as humanly possible. And it's the closest thing to free that we could do and still cover some costs. So thank you for being here today. Thank you for sharing your time with me, and thank you so much for showing up for yourself. And take a look at the book. You can click on the links below. You can look at any of our social media platforms. You'll see it. We got videos and all kinds of fun things going on. As we're celebrating it today, you'll be able to get that price for the next 24 hours. And if you need any help with anything, feel free to reach out to us. You can go to our website. Make sure you subscribe to our YouTube channel. That's where you're watching it right now. This is a fairly new channel for us, so please subscribe because we definitely need subscribers and we want to help spread the word. And we're going to be dropping in here every week live, and we're going to be talking to authors, we're talking about books and sharing tips, tricks, and techniques, the things that are going to make a difference to move the needle in your life and in your business. So if you know people that are going through the struggle, and they're looking for good resources and people that have been through it. These are real people solving real problems, and they can help. So look on our website as well, and you'll find some of our books there. And you'll be able to, I'm trying to do two things here. You'll be able to buy our books online at mydefiningmoments.com. You can see some of our books, some of our authors' books. You can learn a little bit more about what we do, how we can support you. We also have free memberships you can join to get more supplies and resources and tools. And the fact is, this is the journey. You're the hero on this journey. This is your book journey. We are a guide that can walk you through it. And I just want you to remember that the person who is working against you is usually yourself, right? You have to become your world's biggest advocate and not your greatest enemy. And that means you have to sometimes work on yourself, and your book becomes the greatest personal development tool you'll ever see because it transforms you into becoming the person who wrote the best-selling book. And I can't explain it. It's just something you have to experience for yourself. So thank you again for helping me celebrate today, this very special day. Happy birthday, heavenly birthday to Karsten. I love you so much. And I appreciate all of you for being here. Thank you so much. Have a great day, everyone. And we'll see you soon. Can't wait to read your books as well.